Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dhanush Pranam.
Hare Bapu. How are you?
I'm good, Maharaj. Thank you. How are you?
All right. Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with a kirtan.
Yes, Maharaj. Please. Hari.
Vallabha, Girivaradhara, Krishna Vallabha, Krishna Prabhupada ki jai.
Maharaj, if you want to share anything from Bhagavatam, you can let me know. I am happy to share the screen here, or I can also allow you to share the screen.
Oh, okay. Well, you can share the verse. It's Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 7, text number 7, text number 2.
672.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll put that now.
Actually, no, it's 1, sorry.
Okay.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Okay, so we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 7, Text 1. This chapter is entitled Indra Offends His Spiritual Master Brihaspati. Sri Raja Uvacha
Shiraja Vacha.
Kalsya Hetak Paritya Yakta
Kashahetu Parityakta.
Acharye Natmanak Shruta Suraha
Acharyenatmana Suraha.
Etad Echakshva Bhagavan
Etad Achakshva Bhagavan.
Shishyanam Akramam Guru
Shishyanam Akranam Guru.
Sri Raja Uvacha
Shiraja Vacha.
Kasya Hetak Parityakta
Kashahetu Parityakta.
Acharye Natmanak Suraha
Acharyenatmana Suraha.
Etad Achakshva Bhagavan
Etad Achakshva Bhagavan.
Shishyanam Akramam Guru
Shishyanam Akramam Guru.
Viraja Uvacha.
Shiraja Vacha.
The king inquired,
King inquired.
Kasya Heto, for what reason?
What reason?
Parityaktaha,
Parityaktaha.
rejected.
Rejected.
Acharyena,
Acharyena.
by the spiritual master.
By the spiritual master.
Brihaspati,
Brihaspati.
Atmanaha,
Atmanaha.
of himself.
Of himself.
Suraha,
Suraha.
all the demigods.
All the demigods.
Etat,
Etad.
this.
This.
Achakshva,
Achakshva.
kindly described.
Kindly described.
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
O great sage Shukadeva Goswami,
O great sage Shukadeva Goswami,
Shishyanam,
Shishyanam,
of the disciples, Akramam,
Akramam,
the offense, Guru,
Guru,
unto the spiritual master. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, O great sage, why did the spiritual master of the demigods, Brihaspati, reject the demigods who were his own disciples? What offense did the demigods commit against their spiritual master? Please describe to me this incident. In response, please. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami, O great sage, why did the spiritual master of the demigods, Brihaspati, reject the demigods who were his own disciples? What offense did the demigods commit against their spiritual master? Please describe to me this incident. The poet, by his divine grace, says, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Saptame Guruna Chakter. This is by Srila Bismarck Chakrabarti Thakur. He comments, Saptame Guruna Chakter Devar Daitya Harajitaha Vishvarupa Guruttavena Rito Brahmo Padeshataha. This 7th chapter describes how Brihaspati was offended by the demigods, how he left them, and the demigods were defeated, and how the demigods, following the instructions of Lord Brahma, accepted Vishvarupa as the priest to perform their sacrifice. Om Magantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pastacha Deshatarine. So this is a very important part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It covers about 5 chapters. So when a pastime covers many chapters, it means that it's got a lot of points to be taken into consideration for the progressive practice of our devotional life. Srimad Bhagavatam is like the postgraduate study of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of the ABC of spiritual life, and Bhagavatam is the practical application. So, here, King Indra, we have to understand Indra's position. He's not an ordinary. We tend to read the pages of the Bhagavatam because they're handy, they're on the shelf. Everything's pretty easy for devotees. We can take things for granted. But, the Bhagavatam's on shelf, we just got to put our index finger out, pull it out of the shelf and start reading. And we can be reading about Indra as if but really, do we understand Indra's position? If we analyze, he frequently gets Lord Vishnu's association, and even Krishna's association in the 10th canto. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do. In Bhagavad Gita, it says that he cannot be understood even by the great sages and demigods. But, Indra has qualified himself to actually see Krishna directly. So that's not a small thing. Are we on that platform? So we can understand when we're reading about Indra, we should do it with great respect. That, you know, Krishna uses his advanced devotees to set an example. You know, if you've got a class of students and you make an example of the best student, everybody else will follow. Is that right? Oh, if she's getting chastised, then we shouldn't be, you know, we shouldn't take offense if we're chastised. And so this is what, so Indra's, if it can happen to Indra, it can definitely happen to us. If it can happen to Lord Brahma, it can definitely happen to us. Even if it can happen to Lord Shiva, now Lord Shiva is in a completely different category, then it can happen to us. There's only one person it can't happen to, and that is Krishna. We'll read about that later. And so, you know, Indra's in a position. Can you imagine Indra's position? Don't try too hard, otherwise we might become attached. Indra's position is he's relatively in charge. You know, he's like the administrative demigods, the ones who, the administration of the universe. What to speak, the administration of a temple or a yatra, you know, or a namhata or whatever. He's the administrator of the whole universe. And he's not just like a sit down and tell everybody else what to do administrator. He's actually a powerful warrior as well. You know, he can add, if things don't go the way he wants, he can start to use the principle of argumentum ad bacillum. It means he can force people to do it. So, you know, Krishna's given him a lot of responsibility. And so therefore, that's why he's worshipped by all the other demigods. It takes 100 Ashvamedha sacrifices, is it? Horse sacrifices to come to the point of becoming Indra. That's another pastime. Prithu Maharaj was on his 99th and Indra thought, this is too much. And so in that pastime, he started to prevent Prithu Maharaj from performing the 100. So it's an extremely elevated situation, and we should remember that. And yet, you know, Krishna uses him to make certain points which are advantageous to us. And this particular point here is that, you know, he's a devotee, he's fully conscious of the philosophy, very philosophical. But yeah, you know, in that situation when somebody's like paying their obeisance every 5 minutes, and, you know, the king of the sun is fanning you with a chamra, you know, the sun is like the planet which keeps all the universe going, and he's subservient to the Indra. And the Vayu, the one who's keeping all the life, all the planets afloat, he's also worshipping him with a whisk, chamra, whisk, like that. And Ashwini Kumaras, the Gandharvas, and all the other different grades of demigods are in the assembly hall. And the Gandharvas are eulogizing Krishna. So it tends to be, somebody just passes on the back for doing one piece of service nicely, and we're like floating for the next week on the platform of ecstatic symptoms, you know. So what to think of if we were in Indra's position, what would we do? So we shouldn't be surprised that sometimes by maybe Krishna's arrangement, he just forgot his situation. And then, you know, Brihaspati walked in, and he even saw Brihaspati, and it didn't twig. It didn't register that this is my spiritual master. And so he just, like say, carried on accepting the worship. And it just become intoxicated. Now, intoxication doesn't mean we go down to the corp and we get some, you know, some kind of spirit, and we start drinking that, and you know, then we become intoxicated, we become foolish. So, you know, we're all becoming foolish, we're all becoming playthings in the hands of the material energy, Maya. We become intoxicated with things which are actually not true. Indra's not in control. We'll hear about that later. But he thinks he is. This is the intoxication. Somebody who's intoxication, I don't know whether you've noticed, they think they're all right. Have you noticed? You come out with all the nonsense of the sun, and they think actually they're the chief personality in that particular assembly for some reason. And so this is our intoxication, and Indra's intoxication in this particular case. And so, you know, Brihaspati, being a great spiritual personality, he could immediately understand by Indra's situation that he's proud. If I stay here, he'll just, you know, the offences will increase. He'll continue to carry on. I have to leave immediately. He didn't even blaspheme him. What's the worst thing that can happen to us? If somebody has the time to tell us that something's wrong, then, you know, we can appreciate that. But if somebody just doesn't bother to tell us, it means that we've really upset them, or we've done something really wrong. And so that's why Brihaspati left. He thought, I better just leave this situation, let them dwell on it for some time. And because he displeased Brihaspati, you know, anyway, we'll come to that later. And Indra, it came to his senses when he saw him going out, and he became sober again, and he admitted it. This is a value of a devotee. He didn't try to cover up. In front of all the assembly there, he admitted his fault, and he got down and paid his obeisance, and he ran after Brihaspati with some other demigods, but it was too late. Brihaspati had left. And so now he's in real difficulty. And gradually what happened is that his spiritual strength and his ability to administrate and everything started to diminish. You know, we're solely dependent on the mercy of our authorities, our spiritual authorities anyway. And so, you know, Indra was, you know, this pleases Krishna. If we don't please Krishna, then, you know, there's nothing going to work. So we'll understand in this material world that what's the difference between a materialist and you know, a devotee or somebody who's practicing spiritual life. And we can say that we follow principles and we chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And at the end of the day, these are okay, but what's the difference? If it doesn't change our character, then there's no difference. So the character change is important. It's a change from within, and it's expressed externally. And initially we start to do this through the process of, you know, following Vaishnava etiquette. It's so important for a beginner in devotional service. We follow this process of Vaishnava etiquette, and then, you know, we can start to make progress, because it's arranged by Krishna in such a way that it satisfies the heart of everybody. The one who's giving the etiquette feels satisfied, and the one who's receiving also feels satisfied. And so this is why Sanatana Swami actually was told by Lord Chaitanya, he says, you're the emblem of Vaishnava etiquette. Why? Because he had a body full of sores, and his internal meditation was he didn't want to contaminate the Brahmins who were going in and out of the Simhadwara, the gate into the Jagannath Puri temple. This would inconvenience them, and it would also inconvenience Lord Jagannath. So at the middle of the day, he used to go to see Lord Chaitanya. And so he left to see, he went, and he went the long way around, not the short way, on the beach. And when Lord Chaitanya received him and saw his feet, he asked him, which way did you come? And he told him he'd come by, and he said, why do you come that way? And when he told him the reason, that he didn't want to actually contaminate the pujaris, Lord Chaitanya was ecstatic. He says, you're the emblem of Vaishnava etiquette. And he embraced him. So, you know, Lord Chaitanya was pleased. And so everything is possible in that situation. When the Lord's pleased, everything depends, devotional service depends on how much it pleases Krishna. Because Vaishnava etiquette, it naturally develops humility. You know, you don't go in the street and you walk into the shop and somebody, you know, bows down in front of you. Nobody's going to do that. You know what I mean? You can, you know, if you live to be 1,000 years old, you won't find anybody doing that. But, you know, when we actually meet one another, sometimes that happens. We bow down, or we at least, you know, greet one another with proper etiquette in words, Prabhu, like that. So it's so important if we want to make progress. So this particular pastime is showing the result of not doing that, material consciousness. The whole process is to get rid of this material consciousness, this material vision of what's actually happening, and develop spiritual vision. And when we actually develop that vision, Vaishnava etiquette is not a problem anymore. But in the beginning stages, we have to actually work at it. We have to follow the guidelines and develop it that way, by the sadhana bhakti. So also develop humility. The material world means everybody wants to be in control. Everybody's the controller, is that right? In the spiritual world, everybody likes to be controlled. Take, for instance, we're doing Srimad Bhagavatam overview on Thursdays. We just come to the point where the conversation between Maitreya and Vidura is about to take place. And the history behind that is that originally both Maitreya and Uddhava heard from Lord Krishna before he left this world about the process of Bhakti Yoga. And so Vidura, he was on pilgrimage. By default, he'd offended Duryodhana and he told him to leave the palace. So he took that as a benediction. But then when he heard that Lord Krishna was maybe leaving, he went and he saw Uddhava just after Lord Krishna had been speaking to Uddhava on the banks of, it was on the banks of the Yamuna, I think. And he started asking about, you know, the Yadavas and the situation, and then he eventually asked about Lord Krishna. And Uddhava was so heartbroken that he couldn't speak. And then when he started speaking, he told him that Lord Krishna had left the planet and that he instructed him in Bhakti Yoga. And so Vidura was anxious to hear what he'd been instructed from Uddhava. But here we get a situation where Uddhava is much younger than Vidura. Vidura's, you know, old enough to be his father. Maitreya, who is less of a devotee than Uddhava, he was actually a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. It means that he was still had some impersonal tendencies. He was interested in Jnana. He wasn't fully surrendered. And so really, Lord Krishna was preaching to Uddhava, but Maitreya heard it by the grace of Uddhava because he was there. He probably wouldn't have spoken to Maitreya otherwise. But Uddhava, although he was completely qualified, he told Vidura that, you know, it's better that you go to Maitreya. He was also there. So what's this? This is avoiding one very important thing called Mayada Vyatikrama. This means impertinence on the path of devotional service. You know, Uddhava thought he was impertinent to speak before his elder, Maitreya. So a devotee is always careful to follow this etiquette. We may be more learned than somebody, but we don't speak before them. You know, let the learned, let the elder speak, or the one who's designated to speak, like on the banks of the Ganges, like Shukadeva Swami was the youngest, but he was designated to speak, so that's okay. So this is just an instance of, you know, how it works, how we can subtly offend others by not following this process. And Indra did that in a gross way. He, you know, almost, you know, he could see his spiritual master, but he didn't react. So a devotee is always, what's one of the qualities of a devotee, major qualities? He's always grateful for whatever he has. And so if we're always grateful, then we're always paying respects, not just to seniors, but to everybody else also. We're so fortunate to be able to practice this process of devotional service. But we need to keep hearing things like this, because we become complacent and we lose the plot sometimes. So we need to be reminded. And so what happened is that the demigods, as they were actually losing their power due to this offense, the demons were actually becoming very powerful because they glorified Shukracharya and he'd benedicted them with great power. And so they, you know, the result is Indra and the demigods, they had to go to Brahma. And Brahma told them, you know, you've really blown it now. It's the best thing you can do in this interim period is that you should approach one great sage called Vishvarupa. Actually, Vishvarupa is also inclined towards the demons to some degree because it's in the family. You know, blood's thicker than water, is that right? And so, you know, you have to tolerate that. And so Indra, you know, bereft of a spiritual master, he said, okay. And he will actually guide you in how to go forward against the demons. So his mother, Vishvarupa's mother, was from a demon race, and his father was from the demigod race. I don't know how that happened. It's unusual, but it did. Then, so that ends the chapter, and then towards the end of the chapter, it talks about, he's talking about how, you know, the demigods wanted to defeat the demons. They didn't want the demons to actually get any stronger. And because they'd been, you know, committed the offense, it was impossible to see how they could actually do that. And so they prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. And he instructed them. He said, you should go to Vishvarupa and you should ask him to perform the sacrifice for the Narayana Kavacha. He said, if you undergo his instructions in following this yajna, then you'll become invincible to the demons and you'll be able to defeat them. And of course, so the demigods did that. And all chapter 8 is about the, you know, Narayana Kavacha. So we shouldn't get too much into the Narayana Kavacha. You know, we've got the Hare Krishna mantra, that's enough. But anyway, and then when that chapter 9 started, Vishvarupa, he was also, when he was performing this yajna, he was offering some to the demigods unknown to, he was offering some to the demons unknown to the demigods. And eventually, Indra found out, and he was so disturbed that he, you know, he took out his sword and he killed Vishvarupa there and then. And then he realized that, you know, oh, I've killed a Brahmin. Can you imagine how, you know, Indra is far more intelligent than many, many devotees. He's extremely advanced in that respect. But due to attachment, you know, due to lack of dependence on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he took a materialistic, it's the second instance. First one was he ignored his spiritual master. And then the next one is it led to another offense, that in order to keep the status quo, he killed a Brahmin, his own spiritual master again. First, he just insulted the spiritual master. Now he killed him. Now, this means that, you know, this materialistic vision is so dangerous. In the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, he explained how when we try to make a material solution to a material problem, we enter into the darkest regions of the material existence. We just become absorbed in that. And because there's no material activity which will counteract the original problem, it just becomes more compounded. And here we can see it's becoming more compounded. Now he's really in big trouble. And so, so Indra understood again when it was too late. Whoa. And he could have counteracted the offense. But being a devotee who would come to his senses, he understood, I'm going to get the reaction for this, whether it's now or in the future. So he accepted it. And that sinful reaction was taken on by 4 living entities: women, trees, water, desert. We'll not go into what that entails, but. And so, so obviously Twasta is one of the Prajapatis. He was a father of Vishvarupa. And so he decided that for such an offense of killing his own son, he would arrange for Indra to be killed. And so he performed a yajna. And in this yajna, he actually was chanting the mantras, and he should have got the result that let Indra's enemies increase. But, you know, because he chanted one syllable wrong, he was changed to let Indra become an enemy. And so what was born from the fire was Vritasura. It was so powerful. When he peeled from the fire, both the demons and demigods were actually overcome with fear, and a lot of them fainted. They were shaking in fear. And he started stamping the ground and walking. He was just killing everybody in sight. Even though the demigods tried to defeat him, they hadn't got a chance. So they went. So once again, so this is the third time they've asked for help. At least these are devotees and they ask for help. The worst thing is not to ask for help, but we should ask for the proper help. What did they ask for again? First time they asked for some, I need another spiritual master. You know, I need another spiritual master. Oh, second time, oh, we need another spiritual master, more or less. But, you know, this problem had actually escalated to this huge fiery demon. We also need to kill this fight. We need to commit another activity of killing to get rid of the problem from the other 2 activities. So they went to the Supreme Lord and they took shelter, and he was pleased with the prayers. And he said, look, he says, approach Dadichi, he's a devotee. He's performed so many austerities. You know, his bones are actually so powerful. And ask for his bones. Don't worry, he'll give them to you. From these bones, you approach Vishvakarma, and Vishvakarma will manufacture. He's the architect of the demigods or demons. He will manufacture a weapon from your Vajra weapon, your thunderbolt weapon, which will be capable of defeating Vritasura. So once again, the demigods are happy. We've got what we want. You know, this is how material life goes. Happiness, distress, happiness, distress. So they went to the Dadichi, and the Dadichi wanted to, you know, see how philosophical they were. And so when they asked him, you know, they needed his bones for it, he said, well, you know, I need these bones. He was having a joke with them. he says, these bones are pretty important to me. I can perform yajna and do so many things because of these bones. But then the demigods, they said that actually the great person like yourself should be merciful to lesser persons like ourselves. The first principle of religion is that, you know, we help those who are in difficulty. You know, an elevated person will never refuse to do that. And so, you know, the deity accepted that. He said, okay, I agree. And so the deity performed mystic yoga. He reversed the process from his gross body, became through the different elements from earth right down to ether, and then through mind and intelligence, he absorbed them all into one another until eventually he was freed from the influence of the material energy. And in that situation, he focused on Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and achieved perfection. So he wasn't frightened. You know, who can leave the body? If somebody came to you, even though philosophically we know not the body, and said, you know, I need your bones, would you actually accept that? Would you be able to do what Dadichi did? You know, he accepted this situation, just like we change, you know, jumpers, change sweaters. And we're so convinced. And we can be like that. This process will bring us to that conclusion eventually. So then, you know, demigods, they attacked the demons again. Now, the demons were being, you know, when Lord Indra was coming, he was so effulgent and they looked so powerful, the demons were shaking in fear and they started to run. Even the leaders and Vritasura, he shouted at them, don't flee. He says, this is your perfect opportunity. One who dies in battle, he attains the heavenly realm. He says, otherwise, you know, what is the result of your death? What kind of death are you going to experience and where will you go? And he was preaching like this, but the demons were too frightened. And the demigods were still chasing them and killing them as they were running. Then he preached to the demigods. These are Kshatriya principles. You know, everybody has to follow principles, whether we're a devotee or not. Even if we understand the Vedas, we have to follow these types of principles. Varna Shram, we have a particular duty to do. Nobody's free from duty. Same austerity is there, whether we like it or not. You know, tapa, we have to perform tapasya. Brahmana has to perform tapasya. Karanadakashai Vishnu has to perform tapasya in order to create. This is in Bhagavatam. There's only one person who doesn't have to perform tapasya, and that's Krishna. So, you know, a little bit of logic. What's the best tapasya? And so, you know, Vritasura, he was trying to tell them that in this situation, the best tapasya is to actually face the enemy. But he didn't. And he told the demigods, the best tapasya here is not to follow the anger of the mind, but to refrain from killing the demons. They're running away. This will be a sinful reaction for you. And so, you know, he was elevated. He wasn't an ordinary person. So then Indra, he was infuriated. Then the demigods attacked Vritasura altogether. And he started killing them left, right, and center, trampling on them. And, you know, Indra became so angry. And so he ran at Indra with his Airavata elephant. He was on the back of the elephant. And he let go one of his thunderbolt weapons, very, very powerful. Nobody can actually counteract it. But Vritasura caught it with his left hand. Now, the left hand is actually the weakest hand. So it's, you know, double insult. He caught it with his left hand and threw it back at Airavata and knocked the elephant like 14 yards. And his head was split open and bleeding. He was coughing blood. And so Indra, you know, he put his hand on the elephant, which is like a nectar hand, and he cured the elephant. But he was feeling so dejected after that. He thought, if I've just thrown my best weapon, how am I going to defeat this person? And so then Indra so then Vritasura tried to encourage him. I mean, you know, in any sport where there's fighting involved, do you try to encourage the opponent? Definitely not. No, you try to find his weakness. I'll give you a little, shall I tell you a secret? That it's not a secret really, but it's like when two boxers come together. I don't know if you've noticed. Does anybody watch boxing? Better not. But I used to watch it before I joined the movement anyway. They come together, and what do? They stare in each other's eyes. They try to sight one another out. That's the first thing. And they don't try to see the state of their eye. By looking at the state of the eyes, they can see how much power that particular person has. Whether the eyes, if the eyes are going towards the top of the head, it means they're weak. If the eyes are in the middle, that means they're strong. So, you know, right from the very beginning, they're trying to take advantage. But Vritasura, he was so surrendered to the will of the Lord. He knew what the Lord wanted. He knew that this battle had to take place and that he was supposed to leave his body. So then he started preaching to Indra. He says, you know, you have the sanction of Lord Vishnu. He's already reassured you that by following this particular line of that he's given you to attack with his thunderbolt weapon, you'll definitely defeat me. So, you know, don't worry. He says, and also, if I'm killed, I'll go to the supreme abode. I'll go back to Godhead. And if you're killed, you'll actually also remain at least in the heavenly planets. And if you're not killed, you'll actually be in the heavenly planets. So there's no loss. You know, and then Vritasura starts talking some philosophy that, you know, he didn't want anything material. And Prabhupada starts talking in the purport to chapter 11, text 22, about the particular qualification of a devotee, that he doesn't want material things, because these material things, they only bring so much difficulty. It brings pride, it becomes attachment, and all the other things which are offsprings from those two things. Anger, it's a reservoir of all bad qualities if it's improperly used. It says so that the Supreme Lord doesn't give opulences to his devotee. Chanmaishvarya Shruta Shribir, Edamana Madapmanam, Nirvarhat Abidartam Vai, Twama Kinchana Gochara. Krishna says in the 11th canto, when I especially favor somebody, I gradually take away all his opulence. And then the relatives and friends of that particular devotee, they all neglect him, reject him. And in that stricken condition, he actually surrenders to me fully. Because it says it in that particular purport, Prabhupada saying that while we have Janma, we're born in a good family. Aishvarya, we have wealth. Shruta, we're learned. Shribir, then we'll become proud. And, you know, for a proud person, it's difficult to chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind. He says, so this is why Krishna takes them away. So then he can actually be humbled. And so this is why, you know, Prabhupada's making this point for devotees that, you know, we shouldn't aspire for any material. Anything we aspire for materially, it'll cause so much trouble, just like this pastime. It says, therefore, the process is Yukta Vairagya. This is a higher platform. The Lord doesn't have to take things. If you use everything in Krishna's service, then what's the harm? Is everybody using everything in Krishna's service? Okay, so yes, and also for other devotees, if we're leaders, there may be so many, as a leader, sometimes we're thinking in terms of what's good for our preaching situation, what's good for the temple, what's good for the Namata, what's good for this. But we have to be careful about our motivation. It may be good, but what's the result on the other person? You know, what's the result in the long run on us? So we shouldn't flatter people just because we necessarily will get some benefit, because that person suffers and we're their worst enemy. The devotee is very straightforward. We shouldn't actually cultivate that dependence on a situation, because ultimately it'll lead to ruination. Well, it won't be a good result at the end. We're trying to actually cultivate. We're dependent on Krishna, in other words. We're not dependent on anything but Krishna. And if we do the right things in the right situation, we'll get what we need. Everything, more than what we need. I think most devotees must have that realization that, do we ever go without anything? When we need it and when we're confident, when we're qualified, then Krishna will give us what we need. So, you know, that's actually being a well-wisher, being dependent on Krishna. And others become independent on Krishna. Others become purified. And when we become purified, that chapter finishes by explaining when we become, actually I'll read, I meant to read some parts.
Shall I share the screen, Maharaj? Or any particular chapter you want? Or you can read from there if if it's going to complicate.
Oh, that's one point I forgot. When Krishna was, when Vritasura was preaching to Indra, when he said, you know, you have to actually fight and kill me, he made one other point. And that point is that you are not doing anything. Everything's prearranged. Same point as what was made to Arjuna in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Ekale Ishvar Krishna Asa Britya. Yari Nichaya Sa Tayechi Nritya. You know, Krishna is a supreme Lord, everybody else is servant. And Krishna makes them dance as he wants. He said, he was making this point. And as I was saying earlier, even the other aspects of Godhead are subservient to Krishna in that respect. He says, so, you know, you just do your service. We should always remember that we just do our service. I was saying yesterday, actually, I was looking on the mobile. Did I mention this last time I was on? And, you know, I was getting a little bit bogged down with just reading the books. I was reading a little bit, and I was thinking, I need a change is as good as a rest. And so at that time, I just reached out for the, what do they call these hand pieces here? Yeah, what's the name? I forgot. It's not mobile. I mean, we couldn't call them mobile, but they've got a new name now, haven't they? Anyway, I saw on the mobile.
Smartphone.
Smartphone, that's right. And there was actually George Harrison. And so I thought, you know, he's a devotee, and one of his records was there. And so I clicked on it, you know, because after Prabhupada preached to him, he just started writing devotional songs. Thought I might get some inspiration from this. And so I was going through listening to these songs, and one particular song, what was the point I was making now before I got to this? We are not the doer, was it? I've got off the track now. Sorry about this. Be a bit patient. Anyway, with these songs, what I realized is that, you know, you got quite a lot of realization. I was looking at the lyrics and I was listening to them. And anyway, I forgot the point now. I'm sorry about that, but I thought I'd mention that. Maybe it'll come back later. Can anybody remember, Guru Nataraj, what the point was just before I go on to going on to the mobile?
So, Maharaj, we were talking about like how when we approach devotees and what response we get from them. If we need anything, Krishna will give us everything that we need, more than what we need.
Yeah. Okay.
That relates or not.
Yeah. Anyway, it's gone, probably gone forever now, I don't know. So then we came to the end of the chapter, and Krishna's praying, Vritasura is praying, "O lotus-eyed Lord." This is chapter 11, text 26. As a baby bird that have not yet developed their wings always look for their mother to return and feed them, as the small calves tied with ropes await anxiously the time of milking, when they will be allowed to drink the milk of the mother, or as a morose wife whose husband is away from home always longs for him to return and satisfy her in every respect. I always yearn for the opportunity to render direct devotional service to you. So that's the point, actually, is that Vritasura developed that desire to really, you know, connect with Krishna. And that's one thing I got from reading, you know, hearing these songs, is that they were all wrote in the mood of separation. Prabhupada told him to do that, and one of longing to actually be reconnected. And so, you know, I got a lot of inspiration. I thought, I don't think like that. I'm really too caught up in what I have to do that particular day. And now and again, you know, I might remember Krishna if I'm lucky. But, you know, his songs are completely absorbed in a Krishna conscious way. So anyway, if anybody wants to go through the records, you're welcome. I'm sure you'll get some inspiration. So then, you know, we came to the next point. That's chapter 12. And here, Vritasura, you know, been preaching to Indra not to be disappointed that, you know, he looked like he was being defeated. So then, you know, Indra was actually brought back to, you know, he was actually enthusiastic again. So Vritasura finished speaking and he started to attack Indra again. But now Indra, understanding is, you know, the power of the thunderbolt he'd been given, and now it's being reinforced by the Deity's bones, his power was more than Vritasura's. So Vritasura threw his trident, and Indra immediately counteracted with his Vajra, and he smashed the trident and cut off Vritasura's arm. Says then Vritasura, with his remaining arm, you know, this is a good service attitude. With his remaining arm, he went to strike Indra with his iron mace, making. And he did that, and Indra's thunderbolt fell from his hand, and Indra once again, you know, this is what it's like sometimes when we're not so strong in devotional service. You think, oh God, I've lost the only weapon that I can defeat Vritasura. He's knocked it out of my hand. Indra, being ashamed of this, did not pick it up. He did not pick the thunderbolt up from the ground. So Vritasura, once again, he starts encouraging Indra to pick up and fight. And so then he started giving the following instructions that, and this is the point I was making earlier, about know what is in control, the Supreme Lord is in control. And so once again he preached to Indra and he rejuvenated his enthusiasm. And at that point, Indra could understand, wait a minute, this is a great devotee. And he's you know, in his mind, he paid respectful obeisances to him. And he was, at that point, he was reluctant to actually kill Vritasura. So Vritasura had to preach to him on that level, you know, that he was seeing him as a devotee. You know, Vritasura encouraged him, just saying, this is in 6:12:7. Don't be morose because of my victory. There is no need to stop fighting. Instead, you should go on with your duty. When Krishna desires, you will certainly be victorious. And Prabhupada said this verse is very instructive for sincere workers in Krishna conscious movement. We should not be jubilant in victory or morose in defeat. We should make sincere effort to implement the will of Krishna or Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We will not be concerned with the victory or defeat. Our only duty is to work sincerely so that our activities may be recognized by Krishna. So the two different devotees here, Vritasura, he's lost both, you know, he's lost his arm and he still attacks with the other arm. Indra, he's lost his weapon and he's morose again. So they're on different levels. And, you know, in devotional service, we have to actually take the ups and downs. It's very difficult sometimes. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. And when things are not going the way we want, then we feel, oh, you know, we feel dejected in practicing the process maybe. But, you know, this is because we don't really understand the philosophy. And actually, one of these records that George Harrison was singing, what do they call it now? They call it, anyway, the chorus line is to love Krishna, love the Lord. Love it doesn't say Krishna, but it says it means to love Krishna and be happy. That's all the song was about. So whatever happens, you know, we've got the whole world at our feet. We just are favorable towards serving Krishna. We love Krishna, or we try to love Krishna, and we remain happy. Everything else is going to come and go. Things which are so important to us now, in a few minutes even, they won't be important at all. Indra's now thinking, I'm defeated. And in, you know, not too distant future, they'll kill Vritasura. It's already established, but he can't maintain that vision. And so this is devotional service. This is why we have situations which test us. It's actually, when we have precious situation, it means it's a chance for us to actually grow in devotional service. Unless we get these opportunities, it's very difficult to grow. And then we have the supreme test, like the Dichi at the end of life. I can't think of a more testing situation than having to lose the body, but we have to build up to that. Okay. You know, Krishna's in the heart of all living entities. He also tells Indra this, that he's directing the wanderings of everybody. So we're just actors on the stage, don't forget that. We want to remain actors on this stage. William Shakespeare said the whole world's a stage and we're just actors on the stage. What's an actor on a stage do? Does he do anything tangible? He doesn't do anything, does he? He just entertains people and entertains himself. You know, he doesn't really do anything. And so that's what's actually happening in this world. Do we want to remain on this stage, which is where nothing's happening? Or do we want to, you know, take the costume off at the end of the play and go back to Godhead? And so every temporary situation, whether it's happiness or sukha dukkha, samakrit vala balabo jayo jayo, so Yugyasvan, nevam papam avapchasi. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, you know, sukha dukkha, happiness, distress, samakrit vala, you know, equinil, la balabo jayo jayo, happiness in distress, sorry. Victory or defeat, loss or gain, they're irrelevant. It's all a trick of the mind. We should remain like this song, be happy and serve Krishna. Everything else will go. So then at this point, Indra becomes enthused again by the preaching of a more senior devotee, and he attacks Indra. But this time he's understood Vritasura's position, so he's smiling and he's feeling so, you know, what's the word? Well, anyway, he's feeling very happy about the situation, that he's fighting a devotee, it's under Lord's direction. There's nothing to actually be morose about. And so, actually, he didn't attack Indra like that. What happened is that as he was attacking him, he threw his Vajra weapon again. He cut off his other arm. And, so then, service attitude again, what did Vritasura do? You know, he wasn't going to give up easily. He was already seemed to be defeated. He just opened his mouth and swallowed Indra. And Indra was actually finished at that point. But he got the Narayana Kavacha, you know, protection, this armor of Narayan. And so in the body of Vritasura, he came out of his stomach, and then he used his Vajra, his thunderbolt weapon, to cut off Vritasura's head. And he said it took 12 months. It was so difficult. But actually, Prabhupada mentions in the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also mentions, that actually it wasn't Vritasura was defeated, it was Indra. He said, as soon as he swallowed Indra, he just went into samadhi and started meditating on Krishna. And at that point, or Vishnu, at that point, he left his body and he went back to Godhead. He says, and that all the bodily functions then stopped. Otherwise, Indra would have been digested. And so therefore, it gave Indra an opportunity to come out of his stomach and externally kill Vritasura, who had already left. And it says that the death of, or the changing of a body of a devotee is that Vritasura didn't even notice. The devotee doesn't, you know, he's actually carrying on his pastimes in the spiritual world. He doesn't even notice or feel the pain of death. So, very nice pastime. It encompasses, you know, avoiding committing unnecessary offense, stopping from being in the materialistic concept. It doesn't take us anywhere. We have to see things from the spiritual platform. What's one understanding? What's one's symptom of understanding something's on the spiritual platform? There's so many symptoms, isn't it? Mami vamso jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. Well, no, that's the wrong one. What's that one? Mam chayo avyabhitrena. We're always engaged in devotional service. So we may see that with devotees, but another one is he doesn't complain. He's understood properly that everything's in control of the Lord. He just gets on with what he has to do. And so this was Vritasura, exemplary. So bodily conception, no good. All the difficulties Indra had to go through, he had to approach the Supreme Lord twice, Brahma. He had to approach the Dadichi. You know, he had to approach other people to get help from his difficult situation just by being in material consciousness. When actually the only real help is coming from Krishna anyway. So if we take to spiritual consciousness right from the very beginning, we avoid all this difficulty. And, you know, we remain happy in devotional service. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Anyway, it's 1:10. Has anybody got anything they'd like to ask? Sorry,
Maharaj, I'd just like to make a comment. I mean, you nicely said, you know, we're all on the stage. It's easy when we are in the stage. If we come on the stage in the middle of our life, that makes it easy that we know that we just come on the stage. But when you are born on the stage and you see everybody and you see nothing but the stage, it just makes you feel so deep rooted that you see nothing but the stage. And when we hear, when somebody tells us there's another reality but the stage, but that message, unfortunately, the false ego would not let, or the mind would not let the message go past the mind or false ego. Or virtually, I would say it wouldn't, that message would not go past the mind to reach intelligence. So that's what makes it extremely, I mean, it happens to me all the time. I hear all the messages, but one way or another, my intelligence would not get the message. The mind would not let them, it hears the message, but the mind would not let the message go past the mind to reach intelligence. And makes it, it's a constant battle, because the mind, as I said, is just not let go past the mind. And the mind just projects an image, and temporarily for 5-10 minutes, okay, this is not a stage, but after 10 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours, 1 day, 2 days, we're back on the stage. So
2 minutes sometimes.
Yeah, it's sometimes, but I mean, the mind, we hear so much about controlling the mind, so much things about the mind. But to me, at least, nothing, this mind is, I mean, sometimes when it's very happy, it just makes a small hole to go something through it. But still stays a very, very strong curtain, barrier.
Yeah, we're very, very unqualified in this age. We haven't got much intelligence. You know, 3 levels of intelligence means we hear and we act. Second is that we experience and we act. And third one is that, you know, we experience and we still carry on. So, you know, the thing is that the process is hearing. Shrimvatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha vedantaksto yabhadrani buddhamati suritasa. That Krishna will, if we're hearing and we're serious, Krishna will purify the heart. So the process is to keep hearing. And, you know, whenever we've got a spare moment, we're just hearing the philosophy. And we keep hearing, and one day, ding, you know, we actually get a realization, and we make an inch forward. And, you know, then, you know, it's like that. And we also need good association. We need to be on, when we're on that stage, we need somebody to come and say, you know, you know something? Not Napoleon. Did you know that?
Yeah.
You know, we need to be reminded by other devotees. And so therefore that takes humility. And if we're in the association, check Jad Bharat for example. You know, he didn't have any association as far as it's explained. If he'd have had one bhakta with him, even if he'd have only been in a movement for like a month, if he could have understood enough to tell him he were in Maya. You know what I mean? So we you know, we've got a wealth of association. And it's also dependent on attitude. Nectar of Instruction tells us about attitude. What is our attitude? Do we want to actually go back to Godhead? Do we want to at least do we want to go back to Godhead? Or do we want to go, you know, whatever stage we're at, we should want to actually get to the next stage. Even if it's not going to, we should follow the process very, very diligently. And what I find actually, we have to be properly situated. If we're doing something which is not actually we cut out for doing, it'll be twice as hard. We'll have two things to work with, that we're not satisfied in the service, and we're not satisfied due to a lack of intelligence and spiritual strength. So at least we should be satisfied in service, and then we can actually focus on our spiritual life. And the most important thing is our spiritual life. You know, we can work like anything, and unless we can use it properly, we'll lose it all. We have to be intelligent enough to know how Krishna wants us to work, and this is what Vritasura was telling Indra. Indra kept losing it, but Vritasura was fixed. And so how did he become fixed? We become fixed by, you know, Lord Brahma tells, just before the Chatur Sloki of the Bhagavatam, you know, the Lord tells Brahma, he says, what's that verse? Here is a necessary paraphernalia. Devotional service is what we're talking about. Here is a necessary paraphernalia of performing devotional service. And he tells him what to do in the Chatur Sloki. And all the Chatur Sloki is on about is that Krishna's everywhere. You know, there's nothing but Krishna it's actually saying. And so we have to, you know, we have to be remembering that the whole point of us doing service is to actually fix the mind on Krishna and Christian service, not that it's done in an automatic way. Tesham, what's that? Forget the verse now.
Tesham satata yuktanam?
No, it's the one. Therefore, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, with your mind and intelligence fixed on me, and your activities dedicated to me. You will attain me without a doubt. So, you know, we have to be patient. That's the main thing. We're doing this in Bhakti Shastra, actually, Utsahan Nischad Dairat. The first thing is we have to be enthusiastic. And enthusiasm is not that we're jumping 6 foot off the floor in Kirtan, you know, on Sunday. That's one sign of enthusiasm, but it means that it describes enthusiasm as, what is it now? Endeavoring with intelligence. Even though we don't feel enthusiastic, but our intelligence tells us to be enthusiastic because we understand the philosophy. And we understand the philosophy, we feel confident. And when we understand the philosophy and we're confident about the result, we can be patient. So it comes back to the point we have to hear. And be patient and confident and happy that we've got this process. For the rigid practitioner, success is assured.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Prabhu.
And Maharaj, just one question. I heard this question somewhere else was asked. What we are supposed to learn from all this mistake from that Indra had made? I mean, I was reading on the Canto 4, chapter 22. Indra made some really, I mean, to me, I don't know what's the word, really horrendous mistake. What we are supposed to learn from these mistakes?
Well, that's what the whole point of the class is, that basically these mistakes come from wrong consciousness. That's the main thing. And each mistake has got, you know, if you read I didn't read all the purports, but in the purport, you know, Prabhupada expands on them.
But repeated mistakes, Maharaj, that's what I do. I mean, once or twice, but repeated from such a exalted personality, repeated mistakes. You know, I mean, even stealing the horse of the King Prithu, you know, it was called such a big thing. But after that, he, you know, previously he made some horrendous mistake. I don't know how
That's what it does. That's what I was saying at the beginning. We make one mistake, unless we actually recognize it and make a concerted effort to avoid that, we'll make it again and again. That's the nature of attachment. Attachment goes in circles. When we have a desire to enjoy a situation and we get some result, whether it's actually what we wanted or not, the propensity to enjoy that situation again increases. So once we start making mistakes, we have to be best not to make a mistake if possible, and just to hear. But if we make mistakes, then the tendency to do it again is increased. So we have to be very, very careful that we take shelter of the holy name and take shelter of the association of devotees. That's a point made here. It just, we have to start seeing things from the spiritual point of view.
But why Krishna had chosen such an exalted personality? I mean, Krishna could have chosen somebody less exalted.
If it had happened to back to Jim down the road, you know, it wouldn't have made that much of an impression. Well, that's back to Jim, isn't it? You know, he can fall down at any time. His own fault anyway. I tell him so many times. But, you know, if it happens to somebody like Indra, you think, whoa, you know, I better be careful. If it can happen to Indra, it can happen to me.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj, just a quick one. I might be totally wrong. You can correct me. Is it correct to say that Indra is a designation and therefore it's possibly different spirit souls committing those mistakes in different times?
Yeah. I mean, it could be a different Indra. I mean, but the same principles there. You know, Indra's post is the thing that causes the pride. You know, if it doesn't matter who you've got in a prestigious position, if his immaterial conscience, he'll become proud. So yeah,
it's just like different presidents of the United States committing mistakes, really.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Okay. Anything else?
Anyone else has got any questions? So I think no questions I can see, Maharaj, here. Yeah. So firstly, thank you so much, Maharaj, for your time. Appreciate.
Thank you for yours.
Thank you. Just to remind everyone about tomorrow's class at 12:50. Raghupati Prabhu will be giving class on Queen Kunti's prayers by Queen Kunti Maharani. So please tune in tomorrow and hope to see you all. So thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna. Bye.
Hmm.